me to do this series of webinars. This is the 4th of 4, and as I've said in each of the others, the words, the ideas, the theory that I'm using and talking about and hopefully bringing to life have all been written by experts, and I'm the one who's showing it to you, which is a really nice thing to be doing. And so far, if you have joined in, we've done worries and anxiety. We've talked about anger, a big emotion in little children and adults. And we've talked about sadness last week. And the authors of the books and everything in this series, Dr. Carol Holliday leads the programme in Child and Adolescent Psychotherapeutic Counselling at the Faculty of Education, University of Cambridge. And the lovely Jo Browning-Rowe is Creative Writing Supervisor at Lucy Cavendish College in Cambridge. And together with Beck Barnes, who's a fabulous illustrator and brings all the characters to life, they've worked with me to create this series to support young children with all areas of their emotional well-being. And today I'm going to be bringing happiness to life, which is a nice thing to be doing. So in your handouts, I'll just show you the paper copy, is a handout. So for those of you that like to see what I'm talking about, I will start in the yellow bit up here and work my way around, so you know where you are. And if you want to scribble your notes, that's the sort of thing that I would do, hence I've made that for you. There's also a sheet that shows you all the resources that I will pick up and refer to, because that's helpful as well. So let's start. All feelings are valid. That's the essential part that's run through all these 4 webinars, that there are not good feelings and bad feelings. When we talk to children, when we think of them as ourselves, that we should be thinking of all feelings as valid. Some are more pleasant to experience than others. I think we'll all agree on that one. And I think that that's a really key thing. It doesn't make it a bad feeling because it's unpleasant to experience. It makes it a valuable feeling. And it's easy to think, and certainly when I've been preparing for this webinar, I thought it's easy to think that we don't need to focus on happiness in quite the same way as we might want to focus on sadness or worries or anger or envy. That somehow it's easy to sort of say, well, that we need strategies for those emotions, but happiness is easy. Bring it on, we say. And as I've been going through, I thought, you know what? Happiness is the one we should spend the most time on, because emotions tell us about ourselves and other people. They give us valuable information. Anger tells us when we feel like we've been treated unfairly or our boundaries have been violated. Anxiety, that's about anticipation of things that we think might happen. That's a big emotion in little children, the unknown. Sadness tells us about loss or separation and things, people we really value and love. So what does happiness tell us? Happiness tells us about ourselves. It tells us what matters to us. It tells us what gives us joy, from big things to little things. It tells us so much about ourselves and other people, and we're not all the same. What brings one person joy won't bring another person joy. And these are really, really important things to learn about ourselves. And when it comes to helping children with their emotional well-being, I've mentioned this before. It's the aircraft situation when they do the demo at the start of your flight and they say down the aisles and they do the things with their hands. They always say, in the event of an emergency, when the mask comes down, secure your own oxygen mask before you help others. And so it is with emotional well-being, that you have to look after yourself before you can help others. So you have to think about yourself, you have to invest in yourself. And as practitioner, teacher, parent, you are the most important, what's the word for it? Asset, thing. You're the most important thing in a child's life. You are the one that can make a difference. And we've talked a lot about the parent role. We've talked a lot about the teacher practitioner role and how, your role, you're with children are with you. And it's so vitally important that you're able to be that calm, kind, sensitive, playful adult in their lives. And to do that, you have to be in a good place. So it's important to look after your own sleep, look after your diet, exercise, those things, they matter, but your emotional well-being as well. So I want to talk about you a little bit more this week than we did last week. So I've got some props to show you. Something that I think is really valuable is writing things down. And we're certainly going to talk about that from the child's perspective, but from your perspective as an adult, think about making time for reflection, thinking about your own emotions. You may have watched all of these sessions and that may have stirred things inside you. It may have stirred memories and it may have caused you to want to reflect. Picking up a pen and a piece of paper is such a valuable way of reflecting. And there's all kinds of ways that can be. It could be a scrappy bit of paper by your bed that you just scribble things down on. It can be much more organised than that. It could be that you take up journaling. This is my journal and it's a very bright colour. And I love doing creative things. And so I started with this idea that this journal would be this space that would be beautiful. And actually, I'm going to be really honest with you, and those that you know me will be horrified at the absolute scruffiness that appears in my journal, as well as the odd moment of doodling. The important thing is making time and space to reflect and write. So however you do it, and if you're someone who doesn't know where to start, I want to recommend this book, 5 Minutes in the Morning, which I've started using. And that gives you pointers for reflection. And that's a really nice thing. You actually write in it, but it also gives you little things that get you thinking. Obviously, if you want to notch it up a bit, there's a lovely Instagram account called Journaling with Purpose, and her book, that's just full of lovely ideas, actually, if you're somebody who likes drawing, which I do. But however you do it, whether it's scruffy, whether it's beautiful, whether it's a mixture of both, really think about the value of writing stuff down. And then the other thing, so I've said about investing in your physical well-being, giving time for reflection. And then the other thing is creativity. I want you to have a think about how you make space in your life for your own creativity. And creativity can be all kinds of things. It could be playing an instrument. It could be art that we often think of. It could be making things. It could be knitting. It could be crochet. It could be baking cakes. It could be your garden. It could be the place where you make flowers grow, where you make vegetables grow. It could be making a basket. It could be, if you're a teacher or practitioner, that your creativity flows in every day because of the things that you do with children. But I want to say to you, it's a vital part of being a well human being, is allowing yourself to be creative and make things. And they don't have to be big things. They don't have to be amazing things. It's just the act of doing it. And then your personal development. You're on this today. You're giving up an hour of your time. That's amazing. And I'm grateful, because I don't like talking to myself, even though I often do. Shh, don't tell anybody. So your personal development, I thought I'd recommend a few books that I've loved over the years. This one, The Art of Being Brilliant, is a book I've read many times. I've bought a very lot of copies of this for friends and folk that I've worked with because I just love it so much. It's down to earth, it's funny, it'll make you smile, it'll make you cry, it'll change your perspective on things. It's an easy read. It's an afternoon's read if you do it in one go. It doesn't have to take a long time. But I guarantee that if you read it, you'll get a lot out of it. There's a teacher version of it as well, which is quite nice. Same sort of thing, but from the perspective of being a teacher. And then there's a new one in that series, which I've shown you in the first session, How to Be a Wellbeing. They're all on Amazon, and they're all on their website, which is The Art of Being Brilliant. So a huge recommendation from me on them. So that's just a few little things about you, about investing in you, because you spend all day, every day with children. And then if you're a young mum, you come home to children and you're giving all the time. So squeezing in little nuggets of things that feed you, that build your snowman back up. That's a lovely analogy that I heard once, which is certainly on a Friday after a full week of teaching or in a nursery, you're a melted puddle on the floor. And what can you do over the weekend to build your snowman back? It's quite a nice picture, isn't it? Putting your snowman back together again. So, helping children. So we thought about ourselves there. How do we help children with their emotions? How do we help children with happiness? We talked about all feelings being valid, and the other theme is that feelings affect the whole body, not the face, not just the face. And actually, when you're recognizing a feeling in yourself, it's actually everything, all these sensations inside you that are how you know what you're feeling. It's not what's going on in your face, because you generally don't rush to a mirror to look at yourself and go, what am I feeling today? I recognize that face, because we don't see ourselves. We don't see our happy face, our sad face. We see other people's, but we don't see ours. It's all those feelings that are going on inside. And it's the same for children. So we have to help them understand all those sensations. So just as we've done in the last sessions, I'm going to spend a few minutes with our buddies, the blockheads. Here they are, look. They're also good for, big, beautiful blockheads. These characters help us talk about emotions and how they affect all parts of our body. So let's have a minute. So here we are. Here's our calm blockhead. He's all chilled and cool. And just going to move them so I can see what I'm doing. And he gets this feeling inside. And it starts in his face. Cheeks are all bunched up. Eyes feel bright and twinkly. And there's this big smile appears. This big smile appears, and he wants to say, woohoo! And then there's a funny feeling in her toes. They feel fidgety and they want to dance. They're bouncy and jumpy, and she wants to say yippee. And what about in her tummy? Bubbly. Her hands are open, the arms are open. She wants to shout hip hip hooray. I've got a lovely poem for you to just get you into the thought of what does happiness feel like inside. Oh, I'm happy, I'm pleased, I'm over the moon. I'll whoop and I'll cheer and I'll sing you a tune. I'm bouncy and bubbly and jump on the spot. When I'm happy, my body wants to do quite a lot. And I thought I'd share, again, just to get us thinking about what happiness feels like. I thought I would share another poem from the Mirror Me cards. And this one is about how happiness affects our faces. So it's on the cards. My mouth stretches. My mouth stretches wide in a great big grin. You can see all my teeth and crinkles in my skin. My face gets wider and my cheeks light up. When I'm happy, it's like magic. There's sparkle in my eye. It's nice to spend time on this emotion because it's really important that we help children recognise it. It doesn't, come back up a sec, unlike the fairy stories, here's a few, The Elves and the Shoemaker, Rapunzel, The Sleeping Beauty, where the happy bit is at the end and it's the real and they all lived happily ever after, kind of gives you the impression that happiness is a constant state of being. And for us as adults and for children, seeing happiness as an emotion that comes and goes and that is big and it's sometimes little, and that sometimes the little bits of happiness are the things that are everyday and that matter a lot. That's an important skill. That's an important thing for us to talk to children about. So let's just have a look at some words. I've put a few happy words in here. And so we've got delight, we've got glee, we've got joy. I love joy. We've got pleased, we've got glad, we've got satisfied, content. Content's a lovely word. Cheerful, pleasure, happy. And again, a really lovely thing to do with children is talk about the size of them, which is the biggest word for happy, which is a word that you might use when a little thing's happened or when a big thing's happened. So you might feel a little bubble of joy just because somebody was kind to you. You might wake up in the morning feeling cheerful because the sun's shining, or you know something lovely is going to happen, or you just feel cheerful. Sometimes we do. You might take delight in going for a walk in the woods. You might be pleased when you get chosen to do something you want to do. You might be satisfied that you did okay in a test. You know, you're not over the moon, but you're satisfied. And having a think about the words, giving children lots of different words and a wide vocabulary and an understanding of what they are and how sometimes they're big and sometimes they're small is a really, really valuable thing to do with children. And playing games, obviously, is a lovely way to talk about happiness and to make children happy. Our Emoji Monsters, each of our 6 monsters, all show all of the emotions. And I wanted to show you these just because the nice thing about these characters is they're all so different and they're all so charming. And they show their happiness in their whole body. You can see hands, feet, body, bubbles and all kinds of things going on. But they also show, and let's take our little purple squidgy one, this character in all of the emotions. Here he is sad. Here he is angry. There he is calm. There he is feeling anxious. And there he is feeling jealous. So that children get more and more comfortable with the idea that all emotions are good. They're all part of what makes us human, that all emotions are valid and helpful if we just take time to work out what they're telling us. This game just plays like Happy Families for children. So you collect your Moji Monster and you collect all the emotions that your Moji Monster might be feeling. And then for you, as a practitioner, a parent, a teacher, it just gives a lovely springboard for being able to talk about the things that make you feel or that might happen to make you feel. So I want you now to do a little bit of thinking. I hope it's helpful, just taking a little bit of time to look at those poems and activities throughout these sessions, because I'm trying to give you nice ideas to take away, but also trying to give you time to stop and reflect about yourself and your feelings. So just with your pen, and I can't see whether you're doing it or not, so if you just put your feet up and stare out the window, I won't know. But just with your pen or in the chat, I want you to think about 3 things that have given you bubbles of joy today. So 3 things that have made you smile without thinking about it. 3 things that have given you that warm feeling in your tummy. 3 things that are just little things. Just little things. William Morris, the designer, he famously said, "The true secret of happiness lies in taking a genuine interest in all the details of daily life." The true secret of happiness lies in taking a genuine interest in all the details of daily life. So I'm going to give you mine because and I'm thinking small things. So for me, I've got a nice tidy desk when I come in the morning, and I've got lovely pencil crayons and lovely pots. Here, look, I'm going to show you I wasn't planning this, but I've got tins on my desk with little stars. I've got silly little things that make me smile when I come in the morning. My first cup of coffee always makes me smile. I just like that first cup of coffee when I wake up in the morning. I've got a dog. His tail wagging is just the bee's knees. It's so chuffed to see me that's another little second of smiling and feeling a bubble of joy. So what are yours? What have yours been? What have yours been today? And then the next thing I want you to think about is 3 people who always make you smile. 3 people who spending time with, it just gives you joy. And as you write those things down, I want you to think about how you can squeeze more bubbles of joy in your life every day, how you can spend more time with those people who make you smile, and how we can do the same for children if we work out what makes them smile, what gives them that bubble of joy. And I think we have to help them. We have to look for it. We have to narrate their happiness. We have to supercharge it if we can. So if in the play area you see an obviously happy child in small world play, setting up a jungle, filling it with dinosaurs, then give them the words. Give them the words that say, "I'm loving this. This is one of the things that I love to do, is play in this space. I love making a world. I'm getting joy from it. It's giving me pleasure." Use those words. Give them the words to talk about happiness and also the reflection of happiness. Is their happiness noisy or quiet? Is their happiness inside or outside? Is it playing in the garden? Is it sitting in a cozy corner? We're all different. And with the children that you work with, accepting embracing that difference, and how for some a quiet, cosy toy in there, a cuddly toy and a book, and for another it's charging round making a right racket. We're all different. Fill their reservoirs with joyful moments. So recognizing the feelings is one thing, but being able to communicate it, that's a really important part of being an emotionally well-being. Recognizing, understanding why, communicating, and that can take all different forms. So I'm going to camera down now to show you a few ideas. Blank table. So we've talked about using this idea of just a blank body. And this can take lots of different forms. So at a very simple level, it's colouring pencils, and it's talking out and it's drawing colours and shapes and where you feel happiness and what does it feel like. But you can also take this to on another level, and you can make it bigger. You can supercharge it. So you can take a great big roll of paper and get one child to draw around another child, so you've got their actual body, and then you can get children to draw in that space the things that make them happy. So draw pictures of things, to talk about what makes parts of your body happy. So I started on feet, and I thought that this was really funny when I did it for myself. So what makes my feet happy? So I like walking in hills, and what makes my feet happy is putting my boots on, my walking socks on, heading up into the hills. I also love painting my toenails and having nice toenails. That makes my feet happy. And I've always had a thing for lovely socks and choosing socks that match my top or something else. So yellow socks, green socks, whatever pattern socks. I like lovely socks. And every year my mum says to me, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I'll say, "New socks, please, Mum." They make my feet happy. Now, that has shown you that I'm totally bonkers. However, that's me, and they're my happy thoughts for my feet. And actually, I thought this is a lovely activity to do with children and yourself. What makes your hands happy? For me, it's making things, it's crocheting, it's knitting. But what about you? What makes your hands happy? Is it baking? Is it the feel of the flour? Is it digging in the soil? Is it getting the secateurs and cutting things back? What makes your hands happy? Is it those lovely gloves that keep them warm? Is it warming your hands by the fire when you've been outside? What are those things that give you a bubble of joy? And using the idea of taking the whole body, ice cream in your tummy, trifle in your tummy, lovely homemade soup in your tummy, fresh bread in your tummy. What are the things that make us happy? Think big, think small. And then you might want to encourage writing it, especially with older children once they start to be able to write. So writing the things, writing poems, but giving them prompts. My happy heart loves to run and play every day. My happy heart loves tea and toast the most. My happy heart loves to sing and dance whenever I get the chance. So starting it off, laying a path, and then letting every child have their own thoughts and feelings. And displays. So had a bit of fun with this one. Thanks to Beverly for this idea. When I was chatting to her, we thought a wonderful display where you have the words happy, and you have all kinds of photographs. I just chose people that I love, and put in my letter her. But it could be things that you love doing, places that you love going. It could be things that you've done together. It might be photographs, it might be drawings, but building a beautiful big display of the words happy that captures and remembers the things that make us happy. And it's like building this reservoir of joy that when the more difficult emotions come our way, the more challenging emotions, we've got this well that we can dip into that keeps us, and children, keeps us well. Other ways of capturing it, a little jar of joy. Write the things down on a scrappy bit of paper. They don't have to be, pop them in there. And then at the end of the day, or at the end of the term, or at the end of the week, or just at a time when you feel like everybody needs a little lift, on your carpet, sit in a circle and pull them out and read them. Do you remember when? Didn't we all giggle because of that? And bring back these memories. Because I'm going to do something like that I'm really hoping will work. It might not. So forgive me if this just doesn't work at all. But hang on with me, because I had this idea of showing you how important it is too. Are you ready? Cross your fingers. So here we go. This is a slightly obscure idea of mine, so if we think of one of these lovely bubbles of joy as this little bead, and at the point that we first reflect upon it, it's like putting it on a mirror. So that you now see it twice as much. And then if at the point that you maybe write it down, it's where I've got to be a bit clever with the camera. Now you can see twice as many. So this little bubble of joy, this thing that's made your mouth smile, this thing that's given you a warm feeling inside, because you've written it down, it's got bigger. And then if we share it, talk about it, it gets bigger and bigger. And the more ways, the more light that we shine on it, the more it multiplies. I hope that made some sense to you and wasn't just bonkers. Probably was. But yeah, just thinking about these things that we do, that capturing what makes our hearts flutter, capturing it and doing more of it, helping children capture what gives them joy, and talking about it, writing about it, singing about it, dancing about it. Oh my God, dancing is such a lovely way of expressing joy. It gives, then, so in all of the other emotions that we've talked about, it gives you somewhere to go. It gives you a way of filling your heart back up. It gives you, if you know what they are, and we don't all know what they are. We certainly don't all do them as often as we should, these things. So communicating is vitally important. Skill that we learn ourselves, we practice ourselves, and that we teach children to talk to each other. And as we've said before, if you encourage a child to talk to you, then you've got to have both your ears at the ready. And when you're listening to any child's emotion, it's really important that you are how you are, that you are whole listening with your whole face, that you are sensitive and kind, and you validate that feeling. It doesn't matter whether it would make you feel like that. This isn't I feel the same kind of stuff. This is I can see that is making you feel. Yeah, I can see your joy in this case, because we're talking about happiness. I can see your joy, and it is wonderful. And then sharing it every day, sharing it at the end of the day, taking time to reflect upon it and putting more of it into your day. So I was thinking about one of the things we've talked about is deciding on any action. So, you recognize the emotion, you understand why you're feeling it. So you've spotted what this thing is that's giving you the joy. You've communicated it, you've talked about it. I feel happy when I ride my bike, or I feel happy when I'm outside in the countryside. I feel happy when somebody makes me a cup of tea. I feel happy when I feel joy. I feel pleased. I feel satisfied. Once we have worked out what all those things are, how can we squeeze as much of them into a day for children? So this is my challenge to you, when you're doing your planning for tomorrow, start your planning with joy, end your planning with joy, and squeeze as much joy in the middle as you possibly can for those children. And if Ofsted come on knocking on your door and ask you what you're doing, then tell them to go and run up a shutter. Actually, that's not very correct, is it? No. What I mean is, if Ofsted come and knock on your door and ask to look at your planning, tell them that children learn so much more if they're enjoying it and loving it and in a good emotional place. And that's why every lesson starts with joy, ends with joy, and has joy in the middle. Make it your priority for you personally and for the children in your care. Make it matter. Make it matter every day. So we've talked about all feelings being valid and seeing happiness as part of that, capturing as much of it as you possibly can for you and for the children. Over the 4 sessions, we've talked about how important regulating your feelings are. So how important anger is, because it tells us when our boundaries have been violated and when we feel like we're being treated unfairly. But then to be able to have strategies to regulate it so we don't get stuck in the emotion and we don't do damage with the emotion. Our relationships are crucial. So as an adult, that's you to your family, that's you to your friends, that's you to the staff members that you work with. The culture, the ethos of your nursery, your school, your home is vital. And the children are with you for so much of the day that it makes such a difference. If everything isn't brilliant at home, then you are such an important part of helping children become well-beings. Your relationship with them matters, and how you are is the most important thing, not what you say. And therefore, investing in yourself is vital. And we've talked about how feelings affect your whole body and how important it is to teach children that and help them recognise and understand and communicate. And I want to end this session, as I've ended the other sessions, on this quote by Russell Barkley, because I just love it. The children who need love the most will always ask for it in the most unloving ways. And that's just a big challenge for all of us who work with children, to watch out for those whose behaviour doesn't necessarily shout that they need love, that they need happiness, but they look for it, it's there. So over to Kat. That's it for happiness. I hope that's been okay.
Well, thank you, Kath. It's the supportive strategies, the ideas, the inspiration, and kind of the thinking behind it, which I just think makes all the difference. And it's just things that we can go away and start doing from tomorrow, which is always nice to have. So, and I think a lot of the things you've talked about, I'm going to even start doing just for myself. I know I saw somebody had put in the comments that they'd done the perfume trick that you talked about. And so I just thought, yeah, it's all those things that help us as adults to then, which is so important.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and also scent is such a, smells are so evocative, and there's loads of scientific evidence around how we can tap into a memory differently if it's associated with a smell. I was going to mention that, actually. I'm glad you said that to think about scent and smell in your setting. I absolutely adore scented Play-Doh, because it's just such a lovely way of having this everyday thing. This one smells of grapefruit. Crazy.
Nice.
But it's evocative, and it works for children just like it works for us as adults. It gives a good feeling, and it gives a feeling that you can recall.
Yeah, it takes you back to a moment, can't it? A calm place, or a relaxed place. Yeah, and I think it's true that we often, as you talked about the narrating the emotion, we often narrate and discuss for the other emotions. And I know when I was teaching, I often did that for the emotions that we saw that we almost wanted to kind of fix.
Yeah.
So you talk, I can see you're anxious, I want to do this to help you. But it really made me think we often forget to do it for happiness.
Yeah.
So we don't give happiness enough airtime, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it's nice. And I was just wondering, so is there an age range that you would particularly recommend? Sort of, when do you think we should start talking to children about feelings, emotions? And is there any point we should ever stop?
I think whether we do it consciously or unconsciously, we do it from the day a baby's born. We just do. And then so for me, I think that it's almost, if not the most important skill we can teach. And therefore I would prioritise it in a at home, and in a nursery setting, and in a school setting, and in a secondary school setting, and in a work setting. Having a ethos, a culture, a collective, as the staff in a nursery or the staff in a school, talking about it together, having a way of approaching it. Obviously, we've put the thought into these resources to try and help that, but then giving each emotion some space from the get-go. Obviously, younger children, the language that you use needs to be different from older children, and the appropriateness of the activities. But I think we all know the word that I was trying to remember last week when I got stuck. The R word was resilient, and we often say that children are resilient. And I think that we can mistake the inability to communicate with resilience. I think in a loving home with loving, supportive parents, we can cope, or carers. Children can get through difficult stuff, but it doesn't mean it's not difficult. The word resilient attached to children can make you feel a bit like they're Teflon coated, and they just don't get that somebody died, that there's a world pandemic going on. It affects them, and therefore chatting to them at their level of understanding, as they are talking about emotions as being okay, and using the old detective, let's work out why you're feeling that, I think is just helpful right from the get-go.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we've probably, everybody on this webinar has heard somebody at some point say, oh, they're fine, oh, they don't seem bothered about it, but it's what might be bubbling away inside them. And I think even with adults we do it, don't we? Oh yeah, no, they're happy with it, and actually the little signs are that they're not happy.
No, I know with my son's grown up now, and but I remember when he was at nursery and we were thinking of moving, and everybody said, oh, you can move children as often as you like until they start the GCSEs. And I think about that now, and I think that's so not true.
Yeah.
It's so not true. It does have every move that you make has an effect on them, and it can be a good effect, but it's an effect, and the emotions that they feel are just as real and just as valid as our emotions.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not Teflon coated.
No, need to help people as well, don't we?
Yeah.
One of the things that came up was absolutely love your idea of talking about taking the different parts of your body and thinking about how they make different parts of your body feel, or what different, and because I think we often think about and we know the things that make us happy, but we forget that using those things is actually a form of self-regulation.
Yeah.
So it's really talk about it with children for that purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And also raising your own mood. I haven't talked about moods because it didn't feel, but especially in the current situation where we're all living a life that has a greater feeling of loss because we're separated from our loved ones and we can't hug them, a greater feeling of anxiety because of what goes on in the news and the unknown that we're as adults are working with, the changes constantly. Those are all affect our overall sense of well-being, and therefore by giving the happy bit more attention and supercharging the things that we love. So if you're somebody who loves going for a walk on a Sunday afternoon, then go for that walk on a Sunday afternoon, but throw in some extra bits. Have the hot chocolate when you get back, put some marshmallows on it, have a blanket, watch a lovely film with your children, make what was a lovely time really special. And then talk about how lovely it was for the whole week. Talk about, didn't we have a lovely time on Sunday? Give it, put the mirrors on it, give it that sort of, draw a picture of it, write a story about it, write a poem about it, give that moment its glory, and then do it as quick as you can.
Yeah, fill up your happiness boxes.
Yeah.
Give it
your
time.
jar of joy.
Yeah, and I think because we often do that, if we're feeling really down, we'll turn to a resource, strategy that we know and that we rely on. But it's actually doing it even when you don't feel down, just to keep yourself ticking over. Just thinking, I've got myself.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there any particular way that you think practitioners, teachers should be embedding some of these activities? So is it sort of standalone? Is it drip feed? How would you recommend?
Well, I think that we've got, I know that watching, we've got amazing teachers and practitioners. I know from all the time that I spend in schools, nurseries, on Instagram, looking at what people are doing. I mean, oh my goodness, we've got some wonderful, caring, creative people out there. And everyone has, as a professional, you and your class, you and your, you might be a childminder with a small group, you're going to want to approach things slightly differently. I think I would encourage you to, I'm going to say have a tick list out, but actually have a tick list and work your way through all of the emotions. You might not doing the same activity with all of them, doing different activities. You might use the body idea to do, fill it with colour for sadness, but then you might do the heart idea. I didn't even show you this one, but my happy heart. It's the same principle as the body, but you can write in it, you can draw in it, you can make a collage of it, but you can spray perfume on it. But using different activities, the joy jar or the worry jar, for different emotions, but having that sort of mental idea that you've talked about envy, you've talked about sadness, you've talked about, and you've got this vocabulary with children, you've got these pictures with children, so that then when something happens, when that emergency happens, when somebody behaviour says they've got a big emotion and they're not managing it, you've got somewhere to go with it. You can talk about, do you remember when we had the happy buddy out? Or do you remember when we had the angry buddy out? And we were talking about, and we gave him a name and we told stories about him. You've actually got this thing to refer back to because you built it up and you prioritised it. A bit like, phonics is to reading. Yeah,
you've got to get those foundations.
Yeah.
You've got to get those foundations right.
Yeah.
Just one last request is just about the blockheads, whether we can just have one last look at the blockheads.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're such a big.
They're big.
But they're lovely. It brings it into play.
Yeah, they are big. So
do they cover all the emotions?
Yeah, so there are two sets of blockheads. I've got happy, sad, angry, and anxious blockheads here. Each one is 10 centimetres by 10 centimetres, just to give you an idea of the size each block. And they come with an activity booklet, which gives you, I'm just going to reach it, there it is, it gives you a lot of the sort of ideas that we've talked about, lots of different ideas. So each one of these is an idea that you can do with all of the emotions, and then specific thoughts on individual emotions, including the poem and things to do. There's in the activities, there is repetition because the repetition is about giving each emotion the time and the space. So thinking about what happens with your face, thinking about what happens in your tummy, it's the same for each of the 8 emotions, but it's about giving each emotion time and space. And we created these big and beautiful blockheads, but we also created them as the flip book. So the same characters but in paper form, and then I think TPS has got just the cards, so these as cards, all with the same characters on.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I like the idea with the flip book because I think sometimes you can be showing one thing on your face, but your tummy might be saying something different. And I was but it's that, I'm like a swan, but underneath I'm paddling fast. So.
Adults are good at that, definitely. And I think that we've talked a little bit during the 4 sessions about how emotions don't come in ones.
Yeah.
We've often got 2 or 3, excited and anxious, excited and frightened. They often come together.
Yeah, definitely. No, and again, it's that thing, isn't it, that we often give the airtime to the feelings that we want to help children overcome. Yeah. And we need to give it enough time to the feelings that we want to keep promoting and encouraging more. So, Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. I know we're about out of time. So my first thank you is to you, Kath, for all your ideas, your insight and your support, because I know I found it really supportive across the last 4 webinars. So thank you very much. It's been really helpful. And as I can see somebody, multiple people commenting in the chat, that loads of practical strategies that we can just go and get on with.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
And thank you very much to all of. Oh, sorry, Kath.
Thank you for having me.
No, well, I'll have you again. So thank you very much to all of you for attending. I know there has been some people asking about whether you can watch the other ones. So yes, they are all on the website and they're all on demand. There's a little button on the TTS homepage, so help yourself. And as I said at the beginning of the webinar, it has been recorded. So you're going to receive an email within the next day or so with a link to watch the recording back. It can sometimes take a bit of time, so don't worry if it is, and if you don't receive it until tomorrow. And the email will also include the link to the certificate of attendance and the webinar handouts from today, if you've not been able to download them from the handouts tab on here today. There's also the wish list of all the resources that Kath's spoken about. So that just leaves me to say thank you very much for joining us. I don't know what I'm going to do now on a Wednesday at 3:30. So I might just have to ring you, Kath, for a chat and a pep talk.
We've got used to these Wednesdays, haven't we?
I know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I was sat here waiting for everybody next week. So thank you very much for attending, everybody, and hopefully see you in the future for another TTS webinar.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Bye.